play tonight. And a steal. Miller retreats to the three-point line. Weber imploring the crowd.
Kenny Smith hitting the three.
Big-time plays here by Steve Smith.
Hey, this is Ernie Johnson. Welcome to a special edition of Open Court on NBA TV. These shows have been a wide-open discussion with Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, Kenny Smith, Chris Webber, Steve Kerr, and Steve Smith. And there's been so much good material in here, we decided to create a new episode calling it Open Court, Curtain Calls, and Loose Balls. We hope you enjoy it.
Backs it back, and there's about a half dozen floating around the floor right now. Anthony Richardson.
No foul.
Kind of a little segment we're calling Humor Me. And if you cannot find the humor in playing on a bad team, I don't know how you survive it. And I think most of you have played on teams that were subpar. And Kenny's already got his hand raised. I think about the fact that, Kenny, you played on a team that I'm trying to think of what your record was.
Not good.
But it was not good. Was it tough to play every night? Did you often take the floor knowing you were going to lose, that the Sacramento Kings were going to lose that night?
No, you have a delusion that you're going to win games, but
in fact, you were 24 and 58.
Yeah, you have a delusion, but you know, Bill Russell at the time was our coach, and we had an interesting concept with me as a rookie. He said to me on the bus, he said, "You're going to have to sit next to me on the bus the whole time." And I was like, I didn't want to do that. I'm like, I don't want to sit next to the coach the bus and the plane rides and everywhere.
Oh,
I started walking to the back, and he grabs me back. He said, "Young fella, you got to sit next to me." I'm like, why do I have to sit? Because he's a loser. He's a loser. And they're never going to win. So LaSalle Thompson wasn't one of the guys he pointed. He's like, you can't call these guys losers. You know, what are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to trade them. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. And if you don't believe me, you can come in the office and sit with me. So Bill Russell was a very keep-it-real coach.
Were those losses tough to take, Kenny? I mean, when you lose 58 games in a season, I'm imagining that from when you started playing organized basketball, you hadn't lost 58 games in your life.
No. I mean, it's difficult. And my agent used to say you could tell when the season started by looking at what I was spending, my spending habits. Because in the season, I would spend more money trying to please myself and make myself up. So I would spend money. I would buy things for myself to make myself good.
What kind of
I would buy cars.
What kind of items would you buy?
I would buy all these kind of things just to make myself feel better. You spend more money because you know you're losing. But the last part about it is, in practice, Coach Russell really didn't run practice that much. So he would let Willis Reed run the practices. So he would read the paper. He was kind of like Bear Bryant. So he's sitting down, he's reading the paper, and all of a sudden I look over and you see him sleeping in practice. So he kind of stumbles and everyone laughs. And he's like, everybody out of practice. If y'all wasn't so damn boring, I wouldn't be sleeping in. You was out of practice for us being boring, for him falling asleep.
1994-95, C. Webb, you're in Washington, and your team goes 21-61. That was pretty funny, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was real funny, especially coming from Golden State where we went to the playoffs the year before. But one thing I think this happens on every bad team is everybody starts out the season kumbaya. We love each other.
Kumbaya.
We gonna do it. We gonna make it. You got guys that getting the same tattoos and all this, and then in the middle of the season, you know, you just see it. It all starts with guys' shot selection. You win 2, you lose 2, you lose 3 games, and a guy that, you know, had a good practice last week, he takes a 3-point shot he never should have taken. The coach don't don't say nothing. No, you have guys fighting. They used to be mentors. They used to be cool. And that in D.C. was the first time that I just saw dysfunction. I come from, pretty good winning in college, pretty good winning in high school. And there, I saw, okay, when you lose, guys turn at each other's throats, and you got to watch out. Guys are going for their numbers, and that was the main way, seeing guys go get their numbers.
Mark Price and I always used to get the same tattoos in training camp. Same ones. Please do tell. I'll show them later. No, but actually,
big fist right there.
Yeah, that's right. No, but I was thinking, I was like the luckiest guy ever. I mean, I played on 2 teams in 15 years that didn't make the playoffs. One was your rookie year, and we barely missed.
Right.
We went 41-41 with Orlando.
Right. Way to
Barely
blame
missed
Shaq
the
for that
playoffs.
one. That's
Yeah. But the other one was in Cleveland just because of injuries. But other than that, I was on great teams. But I was thinking about Steve Smith and I actually were in the same game, biggest blowout in NBA history.
Thanks, Steve.
Remember that?
Yeah,
I just thought I'd
I
remind.
remember.
I still remember the score, 148-80.
80.
And was that your rookie year?
No, it wasn't my rookie year.
That wasn't the game you scored 23.
Who was you checking?
No, it wasn't.
Who was the game he scored 24?
Is that the game you scored 24?
Who was Steve checking?
I do remember that.
Sound like
Yeah, you should remember that.
Left of the lane, goes into the lane with a running right-hand hook off the back of the rim, no good. Nance knocks the ball outside to Price. Price over the timeline, down to the circle, back to Nance. He drives, scored from the right hand. Right wing to Kerr. Kerr out front, back to Ferry, right side, steps back for a 3. Got it! Danny Ferry with 11. This is going to do it. Haskins dribbles ahead, and the game is mercifully over. The Cavaliers destroy the Miami Heat 148-80. This is the largest margin of victory in the history of the National Basketball Association.
I mean, it was unreal.
It was unreal.
Kevin Lockyer was our coach, and Kevin
throw him
Lockyer
under the
was
bus.
unreal with stories. I mean, every time the timeout, he came out and says, you know what? We're not going to win this game.
Oh, really?
But see what you're made of. We're like, we're not that good right now. I mean, we were getting blown out. I think at one time we were down 70 points at one time.
But then you cut it to 68.
Yeah, we
at
cut
the
to
end.
68, yeah. We were down 70.
How about playing teams, Charles, that you knew were bad? And that this should be a stat night for you. This should be no problem.
I think it's a stat night for the bad players, to be honest with you. Like when you're a star, most of the plays are designed to go to you. You're going to always get your numbers. I always look when we play the bad team, the guys who are going out working hard in practice every day who don't get in the game, I always try to make a concentrated effort to get them going. Because they're not going to have 20 points that often. I mean, stars going to average 20, so it's no big deal. But there are guys like the 11, 12 guys, 8, 9, 10, who they might not get 20 maybe once a year if they're lucky. I always looked at it as an opportunity to like, okay, let me try to get those guys going.
Oh, you were That's the way for.
But now?
You were Robin Hood.
But that's the way, though. But that's the way, though, as a leader, especially,
no question.
especially for team chemistry. And, you know, when you play against a bad team, the guys that practice all week and, you know, that go hard, they're doing the extra things, they never get any shine. You're right. That's the time to get
that's
a
the
big
time to
lead
get them
and let them
going.
get their work in.
But those are teaser games when you're playing against bad teams because, A, you know you're going to get your numbers.
Yeah.
But we used to go into games when we would play bad teams and be like, you know what? Let's let them hang around until the fourth quarter so they think they're going to have a shot to win the ball game. And then, you know, as great teams do, you could turn it on and turn it off
it's just
anytime.
cruel.
Bad, you're right. And that's what the NBA is. It's a cruel game. And that's what we used to do with bad teams. Let them hang around to the 5-minute mark. It'd be a 2 or 3 point game. And then you end up winning by 15 points.
Shaq, have you played on what you'd characterize as a bad team?
Not really. I just used to hate playing against the bad teams that had like the 13, 14-game losing streak. Because you didn't want to be the team that they broke the streak.
So you really paid attention. You really paid attention to that. People would say, "Hey, they don't want to be the team," but you really thinking that.
And then, believe it or not, a lot of those games were hard because everybody's a professional, but these guys would like really play hard. So you would always have to get into playoff mode. You would really have to play to compete because you didn't want to be the team that lost. Got beat by a team that just lost 15 in a row.
Hakeem used to always joke about playing bad teams, and he'd come in the locker room, he's like, oh, tonight's my night off, my night off. He said, but not you, Kenny, not you, Cassell, because there's never bad guards. on bad teams. So when we played Dallas
Here you
Mavericks
go.
at the
Like,
time-
it's a lot of bad guards. It's a lot of bad guards. But it's bad everything else.
I'm gonna tell you what he said. I'm just telling you what the greatest center I know said.
The last segment, you said
It ain't no bad guard.
24 and a half, and y'all down by 11. That ain't no bad guard.
No, guards, I'm telling you.
Guards got to play hard every night. Big fellas can take night off. That's what you said.
I'm just telling you what he said. Hakeem would say, I only had to play.
Kenny.
He said, I only had to play 5 times a
But
game.
a big guy's always going to be big.
Yes.
A big guy's always going to be big. You heard the thing, you can't teach height.
There's only 5 guys that Shaq had to play against every night.
You mean great centers. I agree with that.
But there's great guards on bad teams.
And when the guard pass you, Shaq had to leave his big man to go help.
But there's never great centers. There's never great centers on bad teams.
You were the president of the Little Man Foundation.
Can you think of a great center who's on a bad team? Never. Great guards are on bad teams. Thank you very much.
So are you saying Hakeem had the night off like he wouldn't, his numbers would be down?
He's like, it'll be 25 easy. It'd be easy 25 tonight, and I could just sit down and go. He said I'd have to play against Shaquille, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, and then he'd go, I got to think about it after that.
You know what? You know what I wonder when I hear you tell
Rick
this
Smith.
story? Here's what
I'm saying, I didn't think he put him in that list.
Here's what I wonder. I would say 90% of your stories, Kenny, include a mention of Hakeem.
No question.
I'm wondering what percentage of Hakeem stories have a mention of Kenny in it.
But I'll tell you what.
I don't think it's anywhere.
You got to know where your bread is buttered. I'm happy. Thank you, Hakeem, again. One more mention. That's why I'm here at TNT.
There is much more to
NBA
come
TV.
on Open Court.
Watching Ronnie Cycli catch the Shaq flu. Every time.
Still on Ronnie. Killing Ronnie this whole show.
That's my guy.
That's his guy. That's his guy.
My guy.
That's my guy.
3%.
But seeing him in person and saying, I understand, Ronnie.
Team 2, best dream team ever.
Our esteemed panel of
There you go.
basketball stars and
I was
authors.
on Dream Team too, #1.
No, he wasn't with us.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, well,
He don't even remember you, bro.
I was on the.
Oh, he's talking about Toronto. No,
On Toronto, the World Games.
I won't even go.
Oh, now we send the
I
Dream
thought
Team
you were
to the
talking
World
about
Game. Now we send the Dream Team to the World Game now. We could have sent Duke of North Carolina to the World University game.
Storytellers. What's the best story you got from the original Dream Team, Charles?
Well, me, Magic, Michael and Scotty, we played cards every night, all night. It was so awesome being on that team, because everybody got along well. It was really just fun. I mean, clearly, we had no idea what it was going to be when we went there, but to have the type of security we had. But the thing I remember the most, I can't believe how well everybody got along. Because I played on the second Dream Team, and it wasn't like that. Guys were complaining about playing time. Guys wanted to start. But that first Dream Team, how well everybody got along is one of the greatest experiences of my life.
I got a story about the Dream Team. That's the year
Uh-oh.
our college kids, we were in college. We were supposed to go to the Olympics, and this is the first year they changed it. So we go to San Diego or something. It's me, Grant Hill, Jamal Mashburn, Bobby Hurley, a bunch of guys, and we're nervous. So we get there, and we're scrimmaging against these
There's
guys.
La Jolla, yeah, in those practices.
Yeah, so we get there, we watch them. We actually get to see them play cards the night before. So we just watching them. We're this is the NBA. So the next day, we take the practice like it's a game. We come in, Chuck Daly's like, I want you to bust them up. They over there cocky, they playing around. So we come in, we destroy them. I'm talking about we killed them, we dunking.
Yeah.
But the next day though, the next day we come into practice and they were like, y'all ain't winning today. And we didn't score, not on the free throw, not on a jump shot, not on anything. I think it was 2 8-minute scrimmages. We didn't even get a point in. They were all pissed. They were all pissed that we had busted them up the year before.
Because the first day, we're like, oh, man, because they were young college kids. We're like, hey, man, let's just go out and scrimmage with them a little bit because they're going to be on the next dream team down the line. Let's break it in a little bit. And they started running and dunking and Bobby Hurley's throwing alley-oop up to Grant and C. Webb, and they just kicked our butt. So the next day, we're like...
Did Chuck Daly say anything after that?
No. He says, no. He says, now, this is... If you guys lose in the Olympics, this is going to be the worst loss in the history of sport. Because, like, this was like training camp. We had just started. We hadn't been together. Guys had been chilling. Then we're like, okay, guys, let's take this a little bit serious. And the next day, we just like, okay, this is what it's going to be like.
Steve, tell me a story. Anything you want. You got a handful of championship rings. What stands out if you're going to sit down and the grandkids say, tell me what it was like when you played in the NBA, Steve?
Well, it has to involve Dennis Rodman. I mean,
that might scare the grandchildren.
It might, but I'll tell them the PG version of the Rodman story. But no, we had a game in Philadelphia one night, and we weren't playing that well, and Dennis had kind of drifted apart from the team a little bit. He'd kind of come back and forth, and there was a disconnect. And so the game ends, and Phil Jackson pulls Judd Bushler, myself, and Jason Caffey aside. He goes, listen, Dennis is going to Atlantic City tonight. He's rented a bus. He's going down there. He's going to have a party. I want you guys to go with him.
Wow, take one for the team.
We're just the guys for the job. So we went down there. We were there all night. We literally pulled in back to the hotel in Philly at 7:30 in the morning. And we had a 9:30 practice, but it was only the bench guys. The starters had the day off. So we pull in. Dennis goes, I'm going to sleep, guys. Have fun at practice. Judd and Jason and I go to practice. I mean, we're a disaster. But Phil...
Did you have to report to Phil what went on?
We actually saw him when we pulled in. And the bus had a huge picture of Howard Stern on the side. And so we come in, and Phil, we go into the... It was unbelievable. And we go in, and Phil's eating breakfast, and he goes, what time did you get back? And we're kind of like... And before we could lie and say 3, 4, he goes, I saw the Howard Stern bus out there. So we had just pulled in. But the point of the story, Kenny...
Right. I'm trying to get it.
Which I'm getting to. Phil, this was Phil's unorthodox ways. He knew the emotional connection Dennis had with the guys was critical to our success. And we had a couple nights off before our next game, so he said, you know what? You guys go bond with him, go have fun, go gamble, whatever. And it worked. I mean, it brought us back together. Took us a few days to recover, though.
Yeah, where do the better stories come, Kenny, from teams like Sacramento or championship teams like the Rockets?
I think the prize is great, and Shaq, but I think the struggle is probably better because you figure out how to get out of it. And I think the first time that, like as a Rocket team, our first playoff together, we realized that it was different. You know, Akeem had already been to the NBA championship, but none of us had or ever been in the playoffs. Vernon Maxwell, myself, Robert Horry, none of the guys, Otis Thorpe, never been in the playoffs. So we playing the Lakers in the first round, and we're playing a great game. And we're up 1 point with 15 seconds to go. And then they throw the ball into Magic Johnson. And as Magic Johnson, I'm playing defense on Magic, and I'm bringing it up, and as he's bringing it across half court, 15,000, 20,000 people rise all at once. I get chills as I'm on the court, and I'm like, now this is playoff basketball. This is different. Because in the regular season, 20,000 people not standing in one. And they come down, they make the play, Byron Scott hits a shot at the buzzer to win the game. But that's when we said we have to have a different mentality for now on. It didn't help that year, but it helped in future years.
When you guys think back to when this guy made his entry into the NBA, and you saw Shaquille O'Neal for the first time, what did you think?
You know, for me, it was definitely we had a connection because we were both with the Orlando Magic and Miami Heat, you know, teams that was just getting started franchise. And, you know, for me, watching Ronnie Cycli catch the Shaq flu before every time.
Still on Ronnie. Killing Ronnie this whole show.
That's my guy.
That's his guy. That's his guy. My guy.
Kenny, that's my guy.
3 career.
But seeing him in person, and saying, I understand Ronnie. Because it was unreal for him to catch a rebound and then start pushing it and saying, who's going to get in his way? I mean, it was just unbelievable to see a guy with that mass, being able to handle the basketball, and then with the swagger. Now, I kind of understood what Ronnie
You
was
know what we
saying.
used to say about Shaq when we first saw him? Like, we see big guys, we say, you know what, though? If he was 6'1", he'd still be in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's the greatest compliment that guards and other players give. Like, his size was so overwhelming. They say, you know what, if he was 6'1", he'd still be in the NBA.
Shaq, I played in the NBA for 16 years. Shaq is the only guy. And like, you know, you play against a Manu Bol, you play against a great Kevin McHale, a Parrish, all those guys are 7 feet tall or taller. Shaq's the only guy I said, man, that's a big dude. And I was like, I did. When the first time when he walked on the court, I said, man, that's a big dude right there. And like I said, you play against other guys like a Mark Eden. Like, even Mark Eden looked little. I'm not, you know, Mark Eden's a good-sized dude, but Shaq's the only guy I played against. I said, man, that's a big dude.
Reggie, what's your favorite story? Or what's your go-to story when you're talking to high school kids, college kids, kids who want to be in the NBA? What's your favorite story?
Well, it happens to do with someone on the panel here, which is somewhat interesting. Like, this is post-Michael Jordan retirement the first time, and we're playing Chicago Bulls, and we have a pretty good team. They have a decent team, but they're not the Chicago Bulls of old with Michael Jordan. Game is coming down the wire. Steve is in the game. He's guarding me. I come off a screen. I hit a jump shot right in his face. There's a second left. I run to the center court. I'm like, I'm going to stomp on Michael Jordan. He's not around. I'm the new face of shooting guards in the league. So I bow, you know, half court, you know, to the crowd in Chicago Stadium. Everyone's booing. Phil calls a timeout. There's a second left. We're up by 2. Scotty's taking the ball out, gets the ball to Tony Kukoc, who just turns around. And I just so happened to be underneath when he was taking the shot. And I could just see the ball traveling in the air as it's going through, as the Bulls win with the clock running off. And who's the first person to run up to me and bow right at me is little Steve Kerr. Right up to me bowing. You talk about wanting to strangle someone. It was Steve Kerr running up to me bowing.
Wonderful stories here on Open Court. You're watching it on NBA TV.
Carl, his work ethic was fabulous. Dennis always amazed me because you would read in the newspaper that he was out every night, all night, and to have the stamina that he had, it's pretty remarkable. He killed that you need a good night's sleep theory.
Thomas feeding Rodman.
Holding inside Carmelo. Great pass. Hammer dunk. Stockton over to Carl. Angle left. Jump shoot from 18. Got it. Over there.
That's the break about Dennis. Every time he trip you, he's like...
The Worm and the Mailman as Open Court continues here on NBA TV. So you and Mailman were roommates once?
Me and Mailman were roommates in 1982 at the World University Games. And we've been friends ever since then. And him and Tim Duncan, to me, are the best big men runners ever as far as finishing fast breaks. Carl, I thought, was the best I had ever seen about getting up and down the floor, and Tim Duncan took it to another level.
Well, did you and Carl know each other at all before that?
No.
So what did you learn about him from being a roommate of his?
He snores.
Y'all both was country.
Both feel like
I had the same overall. Same thing.
We were both in college, and I don't think either one of us.
Really?
We were both in college. And I'm not like I didn't know he was going to turn into the mailman. I don't think he'd think I was going to turn into Sir Charles. Because, I mean, like I said, at that time, we were like 19 years old. But it was really cool to get to know him as a person. Carl is a black redneck. All he wants to do is fish and hunt. That's all he wants to do. I mean, that's all he ever talks about is fishing and hunting. And he always, we talk about golf. And his thing was golf is a great waste of pasture land. I mean, that's all he wants. He says, dude, I never play golf. That's wasting pasture land.
What do you think he learned about you in that time you were roommates?
I snore. Well, I think us both being from the South, I think we bonded instantly. And like I say, it's been an honor and a pleasure to be his friend even to this day. Yeah. But I just think we hit it off because we're both from the South. We're both mama's boys. And I think that's why we bonded.
Pancake mix? Both of y'all like the pancake?
Pancake mix, man.
Now you're getting
I'm going to tell you what's interesting out of Rodman and the mailman. I think you guys would agree. Both of them were ahead of the curve when it comes to their time in the weight room.
Conditioning.
I mean, both of these guys lived in the weight room. And if you look at Carl, his rookie year, when he, you see how big and how muscular, and still to be able to be that flexible and run the floor. And Rodman at 6'6", 6'7", he was always giving up 2 or 3 inches. He was always giving up 40 or 50 pounds, and he's still averaging 15 rebounds a game. And I will disagree with you a little bit. To me, and I'm not trying to stroke you at all, but look, you and Carl, to me, are the greatest power forwards of all time. And you talk about guys being able to go coast to coast with the basketball. You can throw Tim in there, no disrespect because you played with him, but no one was going to get in your way and no one was going to get in Carl's way.
Well, my theory was if somebody drew a charge, I was going to try to kill him. And I always say, if you can take 6 of those, you're a better man than me. But the thing, the interesting thing, like Carl, his work ethic was fabulous. Dennis always amazed me because you would read in the newspaper that he was out every night, all night, and to have the stamina that he had, it's pretty remarkable. He killed that you need a good night's sleep theory.
You have a little experience with that in there somewhere, don't you?
But I did try to get a good night's sleep every now and then.
And Dennis went through these different phases as a player. I remember back in the Detroit days, pre-tats and all that stuff. And you knew him a little bit then?
I did. In college, I used to always go to the Pistons and work out with them and watch him. This was before he turned into Dennis Rodman with the tats. But the thing that amazed me as a young player was watching a guy go through his practices, or sometimes after the game, and I go in the locker room with John, Sally, and Joe and Isaiah talk, and he'd be on a treadmill or he'd be on a Stairmaster, and they say he would do an hour after a game. So for me to see a guy that just played a game and his ability to go get on the Stairmaster for another hour, and then also playing against him. I never had a guy that I didn't think I could go around at 6'8", standing straight up, and laterally he could still slide his feet and draw a charge. To me, that was unbelievable.
He wasn't the most skilled guy, but when you talk about the greatest athletes to ever play in the NBA, I think Dennis Rodman is in that category. When you think about the stamina, what you talked about, Charles, just the way he lived his life and to be able to play with that kind of energy night after night, the way he could run, especially early when he was with the Pistons and he would chase people down and guard every position. That guy could have been a world-class triple jumper or 400-meter sprinter. I mean, he was incredible.
And Shaq, this is a guy, too, who, you played with him a little bit in L.A., but playing against him, wasn't he? He's one of those irritating, get-under-your-skin kind of guys, right? Would it be fair to say, yeah, love having him on my team for what he does, but when you're playing against him, I'd rather not?
He was a great defender. He always moved his feet. The great thing about Dennis Rodman is he always did it his way. When I played with him, he's supposed to be there an hour and a half before the game. He would come in with 45 on the clock, eating chicken and rice. And nobody would say anything because we knew that he was going to give us 20 to 25 rebounds at the game. And so, he did it his way. He rode the treadmill after the game. And, Steve was right. He was a phenomenal athlete. Phenomenal.
Ernie, I saw that irritating problem. Because Michael used to joke to me all the time. What I would do is I just punch him as hard as I could at the beginning of the game. and he would leave you alone.
Yeah, you sure would.
He would. You just because Michael used to, Charles, why you keep doing that? I said, dude, he stopped because he stops irritating you and bugging you once you clock him. I would just punch him as hard as I could, like in the first 5 minutes of the game.
He gave me my first job, Country Day. He used to go play video games. When I was in high school, he'd be up there playing video games with kids in the arcade. You remember this? And so he gave me my first job. I go up, he's like, you want to come up and camp? I'm like, yeah, thank you, Mr. Rodman. You know, I go up there, he pays me, he's working with all the kids, and then he plays with us for 3 hours after. Just plays with us. He wasn't shooting all that, running and doing all that, but he played with us, and he didn't have to. It was other Pistons, other people there, and, you know, seeing his work ethic, it really impressed me. And then one thing about Karl Malone, when I got hurt, I respected Karl Malone. I've always respected him, but you know, it's something when you lose your athletic ability, you rely on certain things. And for certain things, I relied on. And with Karl, I always noticed it was still hard to check him, even though I had certain advantages or he had a system. And, you know, really when I got hurt, I noticed the cycling classes he did, or I would notice other things. And I'd always worked on my game. It wasn't like I did more, but now I can actually play from under the ground. Like, let me watch his tape now. He's stuck to the ground. Now he has a standstill pump fake that he does like that, and he's going to get me. Or he kicks his leg out when he comes from the post on the side. And just trying to figure out his game, or how he kept it going, to me, you know, the longevity that he played. And he, by far, to me, is the best runner, maybe the best runner that's played the game. Because there's a drill we all know. They put cones on the hash marks. You're supposed to get the fast break. Big guys are supposed to run outside the cones every time. It's the first quarter, the second rebound. He's sprinting, and he doesn't have the rebound. Running to that cone because on Utah, the guards switch up under. And every time he's running down there, so whether he's a decoy or not, you know you have to be in shape, ready to play for him at any age. And I really had a lot of respect for him.
Karl Malone is a more complete basketball player, for sure, than Dennis Rodman. He was able to do multiple things. He's the first guy who has size and touch that we had seen at that size and have touch. Dennis Rodman is the first guy that I've seen that made defense payable. Guys weren't getting paid for being defenders in the NBA. Guys weren't known and getting endorsements for being a defender in the NBA. He was such a great defender that he transcended what was normality. So, okay, you're a great guy, you could defend, and you're supposed to do that. That's part of basketball. But he did it so well that it became an endorsement.
Yeah, I think, Steve, you put it well, too, because you said he was more limited in what he could do, but he knew what he could do, and that's what he did. He'd rebound the basketball and D.
And he wanted to be different, and so he was. But he would purposely not score. I think Dennis took pride in those games where he had 0 points and 23 rebounds. Like, he used to pass up layups sometimes. And we loved playing with him because he'd get every rebound and he'd always throw it back out and you'd get open shots. But I think he purposely did not score sometimes just to be different.
He averaged 7 points in his career, did Dennis Rodman, with multiple rebounding titles. A couple of guys, Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman, who got it done but came at widely divergent ways to do that. We've got more coming up on Open Court here on NBA TV.
When I hear this conversation, it's crazy because I know your mother's strict, you know, I know parents and everything else. When I look at us, I'm just like, we made it, and like you said, it's because of hard work, and it took so much more, but I just thank God I had like a family support system, because a lot of guys that didn't make it, they were much better than me when I was in high school, and they just didn't keep following through, lost their way, and I would just have to say,
who was better than you in high school?
We know the stars who have made names for themselves in the NBA, but there have got to be players that you saw growing up, coming up, that you thought, this guy can't miss. He's got what it takes to make it in the NBA, but they never quite get there. Is there a guy who fits that description for you, Charles?
Well, and I don't believe that. I don't believe guys, no disrespect to the, you know, Rucker League and Playground League, I don't think those guys are good enough to play in the NBA. What's difficult for me, and probably these guys, there's probably 20 guys who could have been stars, but because of alcohol, drugs, attitude, didn't make it. And that's the thing that's always been frustrating for me. But this notion that guys off the street can play in the NBA, I've never believed that. But there's been, seriously, 20, 25 guys, and And this happens all the time. And you says, man, when that guy grows up, he gonna be great. But they never grow up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys, but like I say, drugs, alcohol, and things like that, that's always been a problem for a couple guys. But there's always a guy you're like, man, if that guy works hard and he grows up and he matures, those are the ones that's frustrating for you.
Is there a best player you've ever seen who didn't make it to the NBA? A name that when you...
I got one, and Reggie will know this name. You guys probably haven't heard of him. There's a guy who went to Carson High School in L.A. named Eldridge Hudson.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Eldridge?
El Hut.
El Hut. And he was, you remember that name?
Yeah.
He was McDonald's All-American. He was a lefty. He was about 6'8", and he could handle the ball. He went to UNLV, and he was, I mean, everybody said he's the best player in the country. He was like a point forward, and he blew out his knee at UNLV and never made it professionally.
Well, it's interesting because Kenny will know this name. This guy came on a recruiting trip while I was there at UCLA. While we were both looking at UCLA, and he's from New York City. Kenny Hutchinson. He was one of the,
I wrote his name down.
one of the all-time great. He's about 6'3", 6'4", point guard, shooting guard. Ended up going to Arkansas. But like to Charles's point, lost his way, got caught up in drugs, and really didn't make it, but had all the tools to be a great player.
Found his way back, so I know Hutchinson. But I think the one thing that it's like you see a lot of guys like Kenny Hutchinson, another guy that I grew up with, a guy named Ernie Myers, was stars among us at that time. But what you do, you take things from them. Like, if it wasn't for Ernie Myers and Kenny Hutchinson, I don't think I would have made the NBA. And I told Ernie Myers that one time, another guy named Alvin Lott, because some of their tenacity in there. I asked Ernie Myers one time, why do you play so hard, man? Like, you play in these AAU games, you play so hard. He's like, Kenny, if I don't win, I don't eat. I'm like, man, I got to get that attitude. Like, if I don't win, I don't eat. Because he came from a different background. He's like, we don't win, we don't eat. So getting those things pushed me into the NBA. If I never met these guys who I thought were better than me or could have made it, I don't think I would have ever made it.
Ernie, I think one thing that we as players never get credit for, because first off, if you make it in a professional sport, it takes more than talent. I think we never get enough credit for how hard we work. You know, people are like, oh, they're just talented. I'm like, dude, everybody's talented. And like you went through the gauntlet of high school, college, and then you get to the NBA. Man, you have to really work hard. And number one, everybody on here played for a long time. And you can't play in the NBA. Like, talent will get you to the NBA, but you can't play a long, extended period of time unless you're working your behind off.
Certain guys have the aura that when you look at them, you say they're going to make it. Like, I played with a guy in college, Chris Jackson. He was a phenomenal dude. And like, when I was playing with him in college, I was saying to myself, when he gets to the league, he's going to dominate. But he could never really, cross over like that, cross over the hump.
Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
I think a player that, and Reggie, you were in Indiana at the time, Jay Edwards. We both came in college at the same time. I mean, he destroyed the Big Ten. I thought for sure Jay Edwards. You know, looking at him as a shooting guard, he's averaging 20 as a freshman. I thought for sure it was going to translate. It didn't. So I would say Jay Edwards, and another guy from the Detroit area, Winifred Walton. Winifred Walton from my high school was a Chris Webber mixed with a Jalen Rose mixed with a Magic Johnson. It just didn't translate. But as far as skills, I mean, he was averaging 26, 12, and 11 in high school. Went to Syracuse. It didn't pan out. So Winifred Walton would be that guy for me from Detroit.
You know, for me, I had a real crazy AAU coach, and he would point out people that weren't going to make it, that were supposed to make it, instead of saying this guy is so great. And so when I hear this conversation, it's crazy because I know your mother's strict, I know parents and everything else. When I look at us, I'm just like, we made it, and like you said, it's because of hard work, and it took so much more, but I just thank God I had like a family support system, because a lot of guys that didn't make it, they were much better than me when I was in high school, and they just didn't keep following through, lost their way, and I would just have to say,
Who was better than you in high school? I saw him.
Come on, man. I'm just saying, come on, D. Rose, D. Light, I'm just saying, all those guys, I'm just saying, but you see people that's at your level, Juan Bell, all these guys, and you're just seeing them fall off for reasons that has nothing to do with basketball. You know, he's not the game day because he got bad grades. He's not the game because of this or that. And so, I mean, for me, it was more high school players that I saw that I thought were going to make the league, but you knew that you saw other things in their life that maybe they wouldn't get everything
That separates everybody sitting here is, when it comes down to it, discipline. there's a discipline that you have to be an NBA player, or you don't make it. If you don't have those disciplines, you do not make it in the NBA.
It's open court on NBA TV.
You and Charles. I know who's better than you and Charles combined. Benoit Benjamin. No, it was a scene when they was getting ready to start making love on the floor. So the girlfriend pulls out some hot cheese and started melting on his chest, and he was going, and that cheese was burning his chest. Benoit, remember Benoit?
Yeah.
That's cold.
That is cold.
That's cold.
I thought it was going to be the great Chris Voss.
The great Kurt.
Yeah, but I don't believe, like, first of all, I don't think...
You from Leeds, though. There's nobody that you played against. There was a whole bunch of cats.
I tell you what's interesting about being on a bad team when you're a great player.
Save it.
Right.
You know, every time I do that, you say that to me, it annoys me.
Forget it, don't you? Save it. We don't want to know now. Save it for them.
Hey, let me tell you something. That boy this day was bad.
Oh, yeah, he was bad.
He was a bad boy this day.
J.R. Ryder was, too.
No, J.R. Ryder was just nuts.
No, when he was with Charles in Portland.
JR could play.
Yeah, but he was just crazy. But that Gary Payton in his day,
Are you serious? You really think there's a bunch of good centers?
No, I mean, now's the best crop of point guards in the league. Don't act like
But Jason Kidd was on the Dallas Mavericks. They was winning 20 games. Like, you gotta be tying your
Jason
shoes
Kidd wasn't
up.
as great as he is
No,
now.
but you gotta tie your shoes up when you come in there. You ain't gotta tie your shoes up for
Just say
JaVale McGee, man. Come on, man.
no, Ernie, you here for color. We could just have one white guy.
Did you say Rodman gave you your first job? That's a violation for Michigan.
Exactly. Another one.
That's a violation for Michigan.
Another one. He did.
And you used to go work out with the Pistons? Violation for Michigan.
In college.
Yeah.
Dr. J was in your room?
For more Open Court, check us out on NBA.com and NBA TV. This is one of those questions that everybody wants to go first because
Go in alphabetical order.
if you go last,
Go in alphabetical
if you go
order.
last, you say, "Oh, he took mine." So what is
Let's
the?
go by fewest All-Star appearances.
Okay, so what is the one movie, Steve Kerr, that if you're flipping around and you see this movie, you stop what you're doing and you watch it? Doesn't matter where it is in the movie.
Shawshank Redemption. That's an easy one for me.
Great movie.
Great movie.
What is it about Shawshank, Steve, that strikes a chord with you?
Red and Andy, the friendship between those two guys, and then, you know, the scene at the end where they finally end up in Mexico.
Oh, I
you
didn't
haven't
see
seen
it.
it? Oh, my fault. Still gets me every time.
Shaq.
My favorite movie is Don't Be a Menace while drinking South Central juice.
Grandma? Are you kidding me?
No, listen.
Small
it
world,
was a
dude.
scene, No, it was a scene when they was getting ready to start making love on the floor. So the girlfriend pulls out some hot cheese and started melting on his chest, and he was going, and that cheese was burning his chest.
That was a Love-Making Scene. Hey, that's your favorite movie, wasn't it? Black Mountain?
Remember that, Chris?
Was not
Remember
as
that, Chris, and that cheese?
wasn't as good as the book.
That's Shawshank Redemption. Okay.
All right, man.
Somewhere in the middle. I'll go away in the middle.
Give me something.
It's two, actually. Do the Right Thing or Training Day.
You said give him one.
We said give him one.
Give him one. Now you
I
probably
would
took
go.
someone's over here.
Okay, I would go with Do the Right Thing.
Do the right thing.
Because it's based out of New York.
New York. Kenny's from New York. All right, the next question.
Hey, my name is not Kenny. It's Ken N.Y.
Stop it. We have somebody here who's in the film business, so I greatly value the answer I'm getting here from Reggie Miller.
Well, I'm sure this is going to be someone on my left side's movie, Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington. I just think, you know, the social
I'm
concept.
dodging bullets over here.
Nobody's going to take Driving Miss Daisy, don't worry. Go ahead.
Mine is Life with Eddie Murphy.
I got another. Okay.
The gun line, boss.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the gun line. You know that one.
You better start talking, boy. You're gonna make me follow them bottles, boy.
You know what? And I can't be no more inventive. That's my favorite.
That's
Don't cross the gun line, boy.
Cross the gun
Stay to
line, boss.
Mississippi. Yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite. Like,
You know that one, Chuck? You seen
I
that?
do.
Okay,
Boss,
Charles.
I can't believe he don't like us. Boss, he want to get away from us.
Charles, nobody has
I will
taken
say that
your.
first,
Nobody has
my
taken your
movie's
film.
great. All y'all picked out great movies, but Braveheart.
Yep.
Braveheart is my favorite movie. I watched it I watched it about 3 days ago. Anytime I'm going through all those channels, I see Braveheart. Now, this is pre-crazy Mel Gibson, I might add.
Yeah, okay.
Not the Mel Gibson now, but that's my favorite movie of all time.
What about yours,
Go on. I'm a big fan of No Country for Old Men. I like that. A big fan of The Untouchables.
No, you only get one.
You only get one.
I know, but last time I checked, I'm looking at hearing 10-9-8-7-6. I'll just fill it up with as many movies as I can.
What about Kazam?
That's
Kazam!
Oh,
Kazam! I ain't not say that. I should.
You know, they said Kazam was so bad, they didn't even put that on DVD.
I was trying to think of a movie that had a cheese scene.
Hey, that was funny.
Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, y'all.